Hello and welcome to my video blog for Sunday, February the 20th. You know, nothing says love more than former President George H.W. Bush and his lovely wife Barbara on the Today Show. Now, the two were there on Valentine's Day expressing their love as the president shared a letter that he wrote to Barbara back in 1994. Now, as he was there reading the letter, he was getting a little choked up and showed his softer side to the audience. And there was Barbara, who showed us her funny side. And that while the president was there tearing up and getting all emotional, it was Barbara who showed that she had jokes. In the end, commenting about her husband's tears, saying, "Oh, honey, I love you. You know, you could be Speaker of the House." Oh, that Barbara. She's a stitch. She's so funny. You know, I love people with a sense of humor. That's why I think Barbara and I should get together and have lunch one of these days. You know, maybe meet over at Leon's and have a couple of drinks and get a little bite to eat. Barbara, meet me. Come on out. I'll be the one sitting at the table, not the one serving you. Now, somebody else who got served this week was the president, and that he had a very interesting dinner with the founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. He also was there dining with the creator and founder of Apple Computers, Steve Jobs, and some other very high-tech industry experts. Now, this dinner was to bring together all these big influential people in terms of high tech and industry, in terms of generating some ideas and stimulating some things that can possibly come about and that we can maybe implement into the economy, because we need to get some jobs. All about job growth. So that means somewhere in the distant future we'll be able to press our iPhone and there should be an app for a job. Like, oh, boop, I just got a job. Oh, boop, I just got a job. I can't wait for that day to happen. Now, while the president was there dining with all these wonderful industry wizards, the First Lady, Michelle Obama, seems to be in a bit of a smackdown with Michelle Bachmann. Yes, in this corner you have Michelle Bachmann, Republican, Congresswoman, Tea Party leader, mother of 5. Then in this corner you have First Lady Michelle Obama, Democrat, arms of steel, mother of 2. Now, the whole to-do, I don't know if it's more about the press making a big deal of it or Michelle Bachmann, but it all has to do with the fact that Michelle Obama has been out and she's trying to encourage young African American mothers to breastfeed their children. And she believes that breastfeeding will actually maybe scale off some onsets of childhood obesity, and that it's all about health and getting people more aware of different issues. But Bachmann says, you know, like the whole thing sort of sounds like nanny state to her, and that she's not for that. Now, she came on GMA this week on Thursday, and she told George that, listen, I'm not against breastfeeding. I've got 5 kids. I'm not against that at all. I'm not against the write-off of breast pumps and other things in terms of nursing. She says her issue has more to do with the tax codes because it brings about a turn of complexity in terms of how everybody should fill out their taxes, because she thinks in the end it won't be so simple that a caveman can do it. Oh, that Michelle, she's so considerate. So here it is that she thinks that, you know, it's all about the complexity of a tax issue, but I really think that it's neither here nor there, because the idea that as a black mother, that I'd be able to have a child and then be able to write off all the nipple appendages, that sounds like a fabulous idea to me. In fact, it sounds succulent. Now, something that's not so succulent is what's going on over in the Middle East, and that things are getting quite testy. And I just want to know, when did being a newspaper or a newsman or a news reporter become one of the world's most dangerous jobs? When did that happen? And it seems as though it has happened quite recently, especially when you take into account the situation over in Egypt. Now, what went down last week has seemed to turn into a bit of a law and order special victims crime unit situation, and that now the president is asking or calling for that country to give us some answers as to what happened to Laura Logan, because what went down with that was not so funny. And it seems as though there are more and more reporters who are having to really take their lives into consideration when they go out and do these reports, and that the situations can instantly turn on a dime, and that here it is, people can be celebrating, and then in the midst of celebrating, as a journalist, you're being singled out and attacked. And that happened again for an ABC news correspondent, not this past Saturday, but this past week. And that here it was, he was reporting, and then the footage instantly turned violent, and that the mob turned on him. And he's yelling now, "I'm a reporter, I'm a journalist. No, no, no." It's like crazy. And you could see the camera going all haywire. So here it is. Reporters are having to take on a new brand of armor. Sort of like how these crazy makeshift superheroes are out there patrolling the streets. Is like we're looking for journalists to become the same thing, and that they have to become like super journalists. You know, like on one hand they're carrying their mic, and then on the other hand they're like having to like be a photographer, be a reporter, and then be able to like stave off, you know, fights and battles and attack from these crazy people who are out there just marching for freedom. Now, this wave of democracy and this wave of freedom is really whipping through the Middle East, and that what started in Egypt seems to be spreading. And it doesn't seem as though this wave is going to go away. And that you've got people who are standing up and saying that, in the words of Eminem, they are not afraid to take a stand. And where are they taking a stand? They're taking a stand in Bahrain. They're taking a stand in Yemen. They're taking a stand in Cairo, all over the place. And as they're out there taking a stand, they're basically saying that, listen, I've got courage. I went to Oz. I saw the wizard. I'm ready. I'm ready to stand up, you know, and that this whole thing about monarchs, they need to be thrown out and done away with, and that we want to put on the colors of freedom and democracy. So, as this is all coming about, none other than CNN's Anderson Cooper is happy to report the story, and that he was there, he saw what has happened firsthand. He is one of those people who has been attacked, and now he's back and he's continuing to keep that story alive, and that he's pretty much educating us all about what's happening and what's at the core of all of this. So, there seems to be that there are always these people who are willing to talk about what's happening, and they are coming out in the biggest way possible. But Anderson is quick to remind them that, hey, listen, aren't you afraid? And they're like, no, Anderson, I'm not afraid. We're not afraid anymore. We won't be held down. And Anderson is saying, listen, I was over there. You should be a little afraid, because I got hit here. I got hit here. I still got a little twinge in my elbow and shoulder. You know, maybe you should be afraid. Maybe you should run right after this interview. And that's kind of like what's happening, because as soon as they're talking, they're hanging up the phone and they're skedaddling. But they're calling them back at 3 the next day because they got to keep the thing going. Now, somebody else who's also running are the Democrats in Wisconsin. Now, this whole thing is crazy, because didn't Green Bay, didn't they just win the Super Bowl? Shouldn't everybody be happy? Shouldn't they be celebrating with Mickey down in Disneyland? But no, they're not. It seems as though the governor, Scott Walker, has his hands full, and that the police, the fire, the teachers, the state workers, they are all protesting at the Capitol. Now, what are they protesting about? They're all protesting about these budget cuts that Walker is trying to implement. Now, he's saying that these cuts that need to happen in terms of pension, in terms of health care, is all about having everyone pay their fair share. But people are saying, wait a minute, hold on. You can't just implement these cuts. You can't just make these changes. You just can't hijack the unions and do what you want to do and not bring about any negotiations and not have any conversation. So let's assess. There's complete turmoil, and that you have people sleeping out in the state capitol with their families. So, people marching and protesting in the state capitol. The teachers aren't teaching, which means that the kids throughout the state are not being educated. You got Jesse Jackson down there. You got MSNBC down there. Woo! You got Fox News, who's on the side, kind of, sort of, sounds like, of the governor. But at the same time, you got the Tea Partiers down there serving beverages to everyone. Meanwhile, the Democrats have flown the coop and they're hiding out at the border. The whole situation is crazy. I mean, Walker definitely has his hands full, and it makes me think about some commentary from that great poet, you know, Kenny Rogers, because I think it was many years ago that he let everyone know that you gotta know when to hold 'em. Know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting. When the dealing's done, you gotta know when to hold 'em, when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting. When the dealing's done. That's my advice for you, Walker. And I'll see you next time.